Laser sights can deter threats and aid in quick target identification, enhancing your ability to protect your family, home, and country. Crimson Trace, making laser sights standard equipment. Learn more at crimsontrace.com.
Today on Tom Gresham's Gun Talk, we're checking in with USA Shooting while they're competing at the Nationals and preparing to head to Rio for the 2016 Summer Olympics. Plus, your range reports and more. Call in now at 866-TALK-GUN. Now, here's Tom.
Well. So glad you could be with us. Tom Gresham here, talking about guns, of course. That's what we're going to be doing for the next 3+ hours. And you're going to be a part of it because you can call in, you can join us. A lot of things going on we definitely want to talk about. Of course, you have some guns that you're thinking about buying, maybe some things you have purchased, maybe even some stuff you've had for a long, long time. And we'll be happy to chat about that. We love getting your range report, something you took out to the range, you shot. You loved it, you hated it, whatever. You introduced somebody to sports, to the shooting sports. Yeah, we love those reports as well. I am back after a 2-week on the road. Actually didn't get on the road that often because I was flying the Silver Bird, in this case the White and Blue Bird, all around the West. Started off in North Carolina. That's not West, is it? Actually, kind of a wrong way Corrigan thing. Flew to North Carolina, then to Ohio, then to Kalispell, Montana, then to Prineville, Oregon, where we did the show last week. Then, of course, to, McCall, Idaho, Albuquerque, New Mexico, and finally home, having bunches of fun. Visiting with gun owners, shooters, people in the firearms business. Talked to a lot of those folks while we were out and about. I guess the big story for this past week was I'm sorry, I can't say this without smiling. The sit-in in the United States House of Representatives, the sit-in by elected officials, the 60s style sit-in. If I don't get my way, I'm going to sit here and I'm not going to leave. You can't make me, because we have to protect people against guns, and we're going to sit here protected by a whole army of people who have real assault weapons, real assault rifles, real full automatic guns, because we don't like guns and we're protected by guns. And wait, huh? What? Piece in Gawker, actually written by the editor, the creator of Gawker, I believe he was the creator. The Democrats are boldly fighting for a bad, stupid law. After Democrats in the Senate staged a filibuster in support of gun control measures, their colleagues in the House have begun a sit-in aimed at embarrassing Republicans into allowing a vote on a measure that would restrict the ability of suspected terrorists to legally buy guns. I love this. The move is fantastic political theater. It's also a tremendous waste of popular support and activist energy in support of a measure that isn't just ineffective, but also actively offensive. And just to make the point here, so that we're all really clear on this whole terror watch list. Of course, the whole idea is that if you're on the terror watch list, you shouldn't be able to buy a gun. Okay. This is what Gawker goes on to say, because I think he captures it very well. It says, the no-fly list is a civil rights disaster by every conceivable standard. You will note also that it is one of these areas where, I actually got an email from a guy that says, Tom, I stand corrected. You're right, what you've been saying about the ACLU. The ACLU opposes this measure because the ACLU knows that the watch list is unconstitutional. So you have the NRA and the ACLU walking together to beat back this unconstitutional measure. But it's more than unconstitutional. Gawker continues, it is secret, talking about the list. It disproportionately affects Arab Americans. It is error-prone. There is no due process or effective recourse for people placed on the list. And it constantly and relentlessly expands. As of 2014, the government had a master watch list of 680,000 people, 40% of whom had, quote, no recognized terrorist group affiliation. This is both an absurdly large number of people to arbitrarily target in gun control legislation, and far, far too few to have any meaningful effect on actual gun ownership, let alone gun violence. And he goes on to point out that the whole terror watch list and stripping you of your gun rights because some secret group put you on that is racist also. The terror watch list is racist at its core. I didn't hear them talking about that. Wow. I hope you have seen, I just put it on Twitter for all to enjoy again. Hope you have seen the little video clip of Trey Gowdy asking a Justice Department official testifying before him. Trey Gowdy saying, can you name another instance where a constitutional right gets stripped from you without due process? Due process means you have a chance to challenge this restriction before it happens. With the so-called terror watch list, you just get put on it. You didn't even know you're on it until you try to buy a gun or you try to fly. And then they say, well, but that's okay because you can appeal it. Wait, you lost your rights without any due process. By the way, for those who don't know, due process is in the Constitution. You must have due process if they want to take something away from you, whether it's your rights or your property. You have the chance to challenge it before it happens. You have a chance to stand before those who are trying to do this to you and challenge them in a court of law. It's called due process. The Justice Department official had nothing. It was as if she didn't really understand what Congressman Trey Gowdy was saying. Like, well, yeah, but it's about guns. You see, it's about guns. We have to be able to take guns away from people. Due process just gets in the way. It reminds me of when Bill Clinton told Janet Reno, find me a way around the Constitution on this. I want to have gun-free school zones, even though the Supreme Court says it's illegal and unconstitutional. I want this. Find me a way around the Constitution, said Bill Clinton. And Attorney General Janet Reno did. And so we do have the federal so-called gun-free zones. Unconstitutional at the core, but we do have them as of now. Strange, were it not? So here's where we are. We have a sit-in, a 60s-style sit-in by self-indulgent twittering people streaming as they sit on the House floor, as they're protected by guards who have true full automatic firearms. They're complaining you shouldn't have a gun for protection. You shouldn't have a gun for protection. After all, what's your life? They're important. They're Democrats. They're representatives. They are the ones who were sent to Washington so that they could turn around and tell you how to live your life. Don't believe it? Just ask them. 866-TALK-GUN. Get you in there. 866-TALK-GUN.
Experts agree that the low-range variable rifle scope is best for most situations. Now, Trijicon offers a stunning 1-to-6 power variable in the AccuPoint line. Featuring a battery-free illuminated reticle, superior glass clarity, and rugged construction, it's the one scope you need for hunting and competition. Long eye relief, aircraft-grade aluminum housing, manual brightness override. See the 1-to-6 power AccuPoint at Trijicon.com. Trijicon.com.
A
attacks happen every day. How will you react? See real people put into real-life criminal attack situations on First Person Defender. Discover what works and what doesn't. Kidnapping, ATM robbery, home invasion, and other attacks. Learn how to save your life and the lives of your family. Get the entire first season on DVD at shopguntalk.com. Get prepared. shopguntalk.com.
Are you looking for a place to shoot? The National Shooting Sports Foundation has a great website called wheretoshoot.org. It's the largest database of shooting ranges on the internet. It's also a great resource for shooters where you can find video tips, printable targets, and a lot more. Find it online at wheretoshoot.org. And while you're there, download their free iPhone app. That's wheretoshoot.org.
For 36 years, the U.S. Sportsmen's Alliance has been fighting to protect hunting, fishing, and trapping for sportsmen from coast to coast. Today, we are under constant attack from extremist animal rights groups who want to end your ability to hunt in the U.S. Join us to protect our sporting heritage and our way of life outdoors. To join or for more information on how you can help, go to ussportsman.org. That's ussportsman.org.
FN handguns bear the DNA of legends, of John Browning, the father of modern firearms, of the artisans and craftsmen who brought his genius to life, of the brave souls who defended our freedom on the front lines for the last 100 years, and the brave souls who defend it on the home front today. FN handguns, the DNA of legends in the palm of your hand. Ask for FN, the world's most battle-proven firearms.
I was watching the circus, the theater of the Democrats and their sit-in in our House of Representatives, not theirs, ours. I was amazed at the self-indulgent nature of it all. They got a tremendous amount of press, almost all of it favorable, with the media basically saying, well, yeah, because they can't get it passed any other way. That's called the will of the people? Well, yeah, but the gun people, they have lobbyists. That's called banding together to petition our government. That's called grassroots activism. We can't all go to D.C., so we get together and we collectively hire somebody to represent us. That's what a lobbyist is. That's the process. And if the people we have set up there get the message that we don't want more restrictions on us, the 100 million gun owners in America, we're not inviting more government control of our lives. And so if they refuse to pass these restrictions on us, that is the way government works. It was sad, frankly, just plain old sad to watch Democrats do that. I had a little exchange just a couple of days ago, 3 days ago. A fellow who was a fraternity brother of mine, way back when I was a young feller, in school, going to Northwestern State University in Natchitoches, Louisiana. And he's now running for U.S. Senate. I'm sure he's a good guy. I told him, I said, here's the problem. You're a Democrat. I can't vote for you. Don't care how good you are. And I have changed on this. I used to say vote for the good person no matter if it's an R or a D. And those of you who challenged me on this were right. And I have realized that now, because a vote for any Democrat, let me repeat that, a vote for any Democrat, not just in Congress, but anywhere along the line, is a vote to support the party that makes at its core an essential belief that you cannot be trusted. A vote for any Democrat in the House or the Senate puts the Democrat Party closer to control of Congress. Then, if they get control, they get to decide what gets voted on. They decide who the chairmen are of all the committees. They get to decide the scheduling. They get to set the agenda. So you vote for any Democrat now, and of course the Supreme Court, Jim points out. Yes, not just the Supreme Court. They vote on the confirmation process of Supreme Court, but also lower court federal judges. So any vote for any Democrat, House or Senate, puts Nancy Pelosi, Rangel, Cummings, Schumer that much closer to getting what they want. And make no mistake about this. I don't care. The Democrat who's running, this fraternity brother of mine, I believe in gun rights. I support the Second Amendment. I don't care, because you won't get to. You will be forced to toe the party line, or else you will be sent to purgatory. You will fall in line because they know how to play hardball. And I wish it were not this way. I truly do. I wish it were not this way. But here we are, wishing ain't getting, hoping will get you killed, as I've said many times before. You can't work on what I hope happens or what I wish happens. You have to work on what is, and there it is. Just really is. So a vote for any Democrat puts Pelosi closer to being in charge. I can't do that. I won't do that. I have a lot more to talk about on this, because I think we saw something with this sit-in. And we'll touch on that just for a second, and that is, your vote is being taken for granted at this point. The Republicans have taken for granted, and they figure in the presidential election, you're not going to vote for Hillary. Okay, good, got it, sure, I hope not. But what that means is this. We've done what we can do. If you say, well, I'm going to vote for Trump, or I'm not going to vote for Hillary, then we've already done that. That's done. Now we have to do more. So that means outreach. That means you got to bring somebody else along with you, 1 or 2 or 3 or 4, or maybe you start getting active. Maybe you start getting loud. Maybe you start getting out there in front of people. Maybe you look for every opportunity to bring this up, because your vote is not enough. That's already been counted. We got to change the count. Let's go to line 3. Gary's with us in Bethany, Oklahoma. Hey, Gary.
Hey. So I went to Academy this week. I had some free time. Just thought I'd go see if the various assorted rumors I heard were true. I figured they were. But I wasn't, see for myself. And no surprise, I didn't see any AR-15s. I didn't ask about them. I figured that out back somewhere. Anyway, what I did see that sort of surprised me, partly because I'd never seen one for sale before, partly because weapon of war and all, they had an M1A, the civilian version of the weapon manufactured by the military's own Springfield Armory. Yeah, one of those. Now, they did say like that. They're proud of it, too, like $1,700.
Oh. Yeah, what Gary's talking about, thank you, Gary. I appreciate you bringing it up. Academy Sports is a national chain of sporting goods stores, and they have a gun department. They decided after the Orlando terrorist attack, they wouldn't take a stand against terrorists. They would take a stand against the most popular firearms being made in America today. They don't have the guts to stop selling them. Oh, no. We're just going to hide them. We're going to pretend that we don't have them. But if you ask about them, we'll tell you, yeah, buddy, they're in the back. And we'll sell them to you if you ask us just right. So they hid the AR-15s in the back. You can't see them on display. But they have an M1A. Same functionality as an AR, except, gee whiz, a whole lot more power. Semi-auto, detachable box magazine. Gee willikers. 308, not 223. Had a fellow I know went to an academy, asked to speak to the manager. lots around and around. Finally gets the manager up there in the front. He's explaining, well, I can't shop here anymore because your gun policy. What do you mean our gun policy? What are you talking about? He explains, well, yeah, but we're not going to sell assault weapons. We can't sell machine guns. He explains they're not machine guns. And they're back at the gun counter. And he points to a Ruger ranch rifle, I believe it was, or a Mini 30, Mini 14. It's Mini 14. He said, well, you sell that? Well, yeah, but that's a hunting gun. And he actually asked the guy behind the counter, he says, what's the difference between that and the AR? And the guy behind the counter tells the manager, not a thing in the world. One's got wood stock and one's got a plastic stock. And the manager just looked perplexed. Well, yeah, but those are assault weapons. But they don't work, they work exactly the same. There's no difference. And it went round and around, and finally, I guess she just walked off, just literally turned on her heels and walked off because she couldn't grasp the idea that they were selling functionally identical items. One they had to hide in the back because it has some plastic parts on it, and the other they could put out front because it has some wood parts on it. Good for you, every one of you who's gone to Academy and told them. Continue to let them know. And I'll tell you, I have gotten so many emails, copies of emails, people have sent Academy a note that says, look, love your store. I have shopped there often. I have spent thousands of dollars with you. Not another penny. Not another cent. As long as you treat us as second-class citizens, as long as you hide the most popular firearm being sold in America today that is useful for hunting, certainly. It's useful for self-defense, absolutely. It's useful for competition, but none of that really matters. Because the real deal here is this is a legal firearm. It's not used in crime very often. More people are killed with fists and feet than are with these firearms. And this is simply political theater. And if you want to engage in political theater, understand that there's a cost to be paid. And the cost is you lose my business. And everybody has been very polite that I've seen their notes. Said, if you change your policy, then I'll consider returning. But until then, I will shop at your competition. I think that is a fine, mature, professional approach. I would encourage you to do the same, to have that same kind of approach. I would also encourage you to let them know how you feel about their policy. Academy Sports, they do have a comment section on their website. You might take a look. 866-TALK-GUN, get you in, or just dial me 1-TOM-TALK-GUN. Lots to talk about. What have you been watching this week?
Sign up for our Gun Talk newsletter and join the Truth Squad at www.guntalk.com. Now, back to Gun Talk with Washington Times opinion page regular contributor Tom Gresham.
Do you ever find yourself getting frustrated talking to friends? Could be Facebook friends, could be real friends. About guns and self-defense and politics and having them beat you about the head and shoulders with all the nonsense they're pulling out of the Ethernet, as also known as the Internet. I'll have some words to help you with that before too long. I'll give you some information, some ammunition that you can use, because you can win, but the key is to do it in a way that works as opposed to a way that you try to beat somebody into submission. I really think that is a huge, huge difference. First of all, let's go to talk line 2. Justin is with us out of Granite City, Illinois. Hey, Justin, what you having a problem with? Well, he's having a problem with his phone. That's what he's having a problem with. Let's go down line 1. James is with us out of Albuquerque. Hey, James, you're now on Gun Talk.
Hi, Tom. I was telling your producer, I'm a life member of the NRA. I have 3 patented firearm systems for training. I've trained everybody from the FBI to Marines to you name it. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I think one of the primary rules of debate is to always present your side of the case in a perspective that the other side understands. And you said it at the beginning of your program. Clinton said, how do I get around the Constitution? And we constantly keep looking at, well, the Second Amendment says, but they're trying to get around that.
Mm-hmm.
But if you look at the anti-gun people tell us we don't need guns in our society. And some number of people are killed by guns every year, there's no doubt.
Mm-hmm.
But 88,000 people last year, or 2014, according to the CDC, were alcohol-related deaths. Do we really need alcohol? 2014, 3,700 people died in swimming accidents in general.
280,000 died from medical misadventures. In other words, they were killed by their doctors. 280,000 versus 10 million, what am I going to, 10,000 who were murdered with firearms. So 10,000 murdered with firearms, roughly, and 280,000 killed by doctors. So, yeah, I understand what you're saying, but James, let me ask you this question. Have you tried using this information in a debate, and has it been effective for you?
I have to some degree. The issue that we all face on our side of the debate is the media is just totally against us. There is no way we're going to get our message out. I mean, look, the American Rifle magazine, for whatever people think of the NRA, every month has at least 10, if not more, vetted stories of people who have saved lives, either their own, their loved ones, or somebody they don't even know, by having a firearm. But that'll never get in front of the media. I don't know how we finally crest this peak and get some visibility that means something. The only thing they want to talk about is, well, the guy shouldn't have had a gun. If he killed a bunch of people, sure, hell, he shouldn't. Yeah.
Yeah, I get what you're saying, and I understand where you are. And James, look, I appreciate the call. One of the things, I was looking at a clip of Eric Pratt from Gun Owners of America, and I think he was with Carol Costello. My apologies if that's not who the news anchor was. But she kept throwing out these figures, and Eric Pratt's with GOA, just throwing out the 30,000 people a year being killed with guns. And he's saying, well, of course, 2/3 of those are suicides. And he points out that, in Japan, where they have no guns, their suicide rate is higher than it is here. But what was interesting, and to James's point, is he pointed out, he said, well, the CDC studied, because President Obama issued an executive order and required the CDC to study guns, even though the funding had been blocked by Congress because they'd been doing such a political job of it, about 3 years ago. And they came out with a report where they said that somewhere between 300,000 and 3 million times a year, people use guns to save their lives. And Carol Costello just kept saying, yeah, but there are no studies like that because the Republicans blocked the money for the studies. He said, well, the CDC did a study 3 years ago because they were ordered to by President Obama in an executive order. And she just kept saying, but no, the Republicans have stopped the funding. And he said, I'm telling you, there is this study. The CDC says that hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people a year use guns in self-defense. And finally, it was like she finally stopped yammering and started listening and went, well, I'm not aware of that, but I'm going to look into it. And here's my question for you. What do you think is our most persuasive argument? What do you think will persuade somebody who is not a gun person, maybe not super anti-gun, but isn't into guns, but is concerned? Is it say, well, we have a right? Is it to say, well, you know what happened in Germany when they took away guns? Is it maybe better to talk about individuals and say, look, here's a person who had a gun and she was able to save her life. Here's another person who had a gun and she was able to save her life. And here's another person who had a gun and she was able to stop the kidnappers from taking her children. Of course, inviting in the range is always good, but I'm talking about just a pure out, I'm going to have a conversation with you. What is the argument that you think is the most effective? What argument have you used that you have found to be effective, because being right, and I'm sorry this irritates people when I say it, being right actually doesn't matter in the slightest. If the goal is to win, being right is nice, but it doesn't actually get you anywhere. It doesn't win. You have to be persuasive. You have to be effective. You have to somehow connect. Let's play on that word. You have to connect. They have to be able to understand, wow, okay, I get that. That's different. That's not what I thought. What would I do? How would I do this? If somebody came into my house, what would I do? If you can get them there, if you get them to come there with you, maybe that's the best way to go. I don't know. 866-TALK-GUN. What have you found to be effective when you're making the arguments?
Hardcore tactical professionals who put their lives on the line every day depend on Surefire. For decades, Surefire has built the first and finest professional-grade flashlights, weapon-mounted lights, hearing protection, and suppressors. We build the best because lives depend on it. And we know failure is not an option. We design, engineer, and manufacture Surefire products right here in the U.S. For you, for your loved ones, Surefire. American built, American strong. Surefire.com.
In the field or on the range, you need a trigger you can trust. For over 60 years, Timney triggers have been trusted by hunters and shooters everywhere. A Timney trigger could mean the difference between a great shot and a miss. Timney triggers are proudly made in the USA and come with a lifetime warranty. To order, go to timneytriggers.com. That's TIMNEY triggers.com.
The XDM 3.8 Compact from Springfield Armory is 2 guns in 1. Use as your concealed carry gun with a compact magazine and use the extended magazine for home defense. Carry 13 rounds of 9mm in the compact magazine and a whopping 19 rounds in the extended magazine. To see the entire family of Springfield Armory XDM pistols, go to SpringfieldArmory.com. That's SpringfieldArmory.com.
You got your carry permit, and that's good. But you know you could use more training. Get the DVDs, which have what you need. Springfield Armory presents Concealed Carry 1 and Concealed Carry 2 with Bata Group. Learn specific concealed carry skills from Top Gun fighting trainers. Get trained. Be prepared. This really is life and death. ShopGunTalk.com. That's ShopGunTalk.com.
I'm just as good as these guys. When will I get my chance to prove it?
Your chance is now. American Marksman is a nationwide series of target shooting competitions designed to give you your big break. Think you've got what it takes to go home with $50,000? Visit ammarksman.com to register today. That's ammarksman.com. American Marksman. Are you the one?
All right, back with you. Let's go to line 3. John's with us in Minden, Nevada. Hey, John, you're up.
Hey, Tom, you touched a nerve with the Ruger Mini 14. My wife bought me one about over 30 years ago for my birthday, and about 15 years ago, I put plastic on it, plastic stock.
Oh,
and guess
no.
what? It shoots the same.
You took it. You changed it from a good rifle to a bad rifle by changing the stock to plastic.
It's got a pistol grip too. Oh my God! And then I was going to tell you, I called you before. I worked over 30 years in the armored car business, and I drew my weapon many a time. And just because I had a gun, even though I was in uniform, I never had to fire it at somebody. They took off. And it was just the idea that I had equal force. And while I was working, I never wore a vest made out of leaves.
Oh, So wait a minute. Let me make sure people understand. Yeah, I know the reference. I'll explain it to people. But you drew your gun a number of times, but you never shot anybody. But each time you did, the bad guys decided they would go away and go somewhere else.
I went up against 5 guys in a Kmart, and I drew 2 guns, and there's 5-on-1, and they all looked at each other and they took off. Never fired a bullet.
Yep, and that doesn't show up in the media reports, does it?
No, it never does. I even had 5-on-1 when I was walking home, and all I showed them was the butt of the gun. I had it in a backpack, and they took off. So it's just if you have it, and they're going, okay, he's got an equalizer, and they're afraid, you know. Yeah,
that's the way it works. That's exactly the way it is. I mean, basically, I hear it all the time. I had a gun, I pulled it out, the guys ran away, I put it back in, no harm, no foul, I'm going on. Thanks, John, I appreciate that. Let's go to line 4, pick up another John in Bossier City, Louisiana. Hey, John.
Hey, I'm trying to buy a gun at Bass Pro Shop. When I buy my guns, I'm always delayed, usually the next duty day or something like that. Well, this time I went into the 4th day. After the 3rd day, the wait period, and then the 4th day, I'm thinking I can go pick up the gun. Bass Pro Shop told me they will not sell me the gun until they get something back from the ATF. And I said,
they are legally allowed to transfer the gun if they haven't heard back in 3 days, but they are not obligated to sell the gun. So they have a policy; they're just not going to do it.
That's correct. They told me whether it takes a week, 90 days, or whatever, they're not going to transfer the gun. And
I have a suggestion for you.
What was that?
You've got one of those names. You're always getting delayed because you've got a name like somebody else. It sounds like. In Louisiana now, if you go get yourself a concealed carry permit, you don't have to do the NICS background check.
Is that right?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
If you go get a concealed carry permit, you do not. The store does not have to do the NICS background check when you buy a gun in Louisiana. I think if you got your permit after about roughly a year ago, I don't know what the cutoff date was, but those of us who have older permits, they don't qualify. But when I renew or get a new permit, it will. So that's one way to go. The other is, I'm pretty sure the ATF has you do have to fill out the 4473. You still have to fill out the form, but they don't call it in. The other thing is, I'm fairly certain you can petition the FBI and say, look, this has happened to me all the time. And they can give you a specific, I can't remember what they call it, but like a specific number to put on the form, not a phone number, just a number. And that number basically says, this is me, I'm not that other bad guy. And then when they call it in, they'll have that number and they'll go, oh yeah, that's the good guy. That's the good John, not the bad John. And that'll go through. But I would say get the concealed carry permit. Now you don't have to worry about it at all.
Okay, well, that sounds good. I went in the academy this morning saying, well, I'll just take my business to them, and noticed there are no ARs on the shelf now. So, so much for that thought.
Well, they've got them hidden in the back because Academy decided that AR-15s are far too scary looking to let the public actually see them. They'll sell them to you, but you got to ask nicely. I think you have to go up to the counter and whisper, say, hey, buddy, you got any AR-15s? And then they'll go, oh, yeah. Come on back here, guy. We'll sell you one. It's ludicrous. I do not plan to set foot. I got Academy just down the street from our house. Shop there all the time. Never going back. Just so that you guys at Academy, if you're listening, never going back. Simple as that. If you switch, if you change your mind, if you decide to, grow a pair, come on out. I'll come back. And we'll just chalk it up to you being stupid. Are you kidding me? These are just rifles. They're like every other rifle on the rack that we sell. We're either going to sell guns or we're not going to sell guns. But we're not going to delineate to the good and the bad guns. Or these are good guns, but they're just a little bit too scary. Because somebody might walk down the aisle and look at them and have a heart attack. Academy. Really? No. Lost my business, man. Lost it. I also will not walk into a Dick's Sporting Goods for the very same reason. They'll never get any of my dollars. 866-TALK-GUN. All right, back with you. Dean has joined us on line 1 out of California. Dean, you have the floor, sir.
Hi, I've got a story for you. You were talking about how do you convince people that that are maybe against firearms or sitting on the fence. I belong to the local NRA Members Council. We set up a booth at the gun shows and sell or help recruit for the NRA. Also at this gun show, there's a cat show going on, and this lady came up, and I'm assuming she came from the cat show. She came up to our booth and said, I don't believe in firearms. Nobody should have them. What you're doing here is terrible. And one of the guys in our group had a flyer, and he says, that's okay. We respect your opinion. We even have something for you. And he hands her a flyer. And on that flyer, he says, just put this in your window by your door. It said, this house owns no firearms. And she got kind of flustered and looked at it and started to tell him, well, I can't put that in my window. Then they'll know I don't have any. And she stopped mid-sentence, got flustered, turned on her heels, and just walked off. She knows better.
So she understood instantly, but before she even finished the sentence, she understood that putting a sign in the window that said there are no guns in here makes her a more likely victim.
Yeah, and that's a true story. She stopped right at guns, says, then they'll know that I don't have, and the light bulb went off. We were laughing.
Well, the thing is, you didn't shout her down. You just said, look, basically you said, here's something that would help you think this thing through. And clearly it did help her think it through. I do like the fire extinguisher analogy, which is the whole deal of, if you don't need a gun because you can call the police, you say, well, then should we not have fire extinguishers because we can call the fire department? And people just get so weirdly, they go, well, but that's different. And go, well, how's different? The gun is there to help control the situation until professional help can get there. But we know that can take 5, 10, 15, 20 minutes, maybe as much as an hour, depending on where you live. Do you want to let your house burn for that period of time? Do you want to let the bad guys, do what they want to do for that period of time?
And one other comment, being an NRA member is not enough. You have to get involved. Walk a precinct, work a phone bank, join your members council, talk to your friends, take someone shooting. It takes more than just being a member.
And Dean, to piggyback on that, I agree. It takes more than saying, I'm going to vote the correct way, doesn't it? Because you have to go out and be a multiplier. You have to be a force multiplier.
And I've even become an instructor, and I love teaching women because a lot of them haven't shot a firearm, and they're so nervous, and by the time they're done, they're relaxed. They go, wow, this was great. And they just, they get it.
Yep. It's a great point, Dean. Look, I appreciate the call. That's a great point. If you want to do more in this world, in this effort, you can help people. You can also help the cause of the Constitution and our basic rights in this republic. Become a firearms instructor and teach classes. So if you want to say, I'm just going to teach women, I'll tell you what we really need. We need a lot. I'm talking about a lot more women instructors. So if you're a woman who is interested in guns and thinks, and frankly, if you have an education background, even better, not necessary, but even better, take all that and become a certified firearms instructor and start teaching classes. Again, it's that old deal of asking people. I love Dean's call. Ask questions rather than tell people. Here's a flyer. You can put this sticker in your door, and all it says is there are no guns in this house. The implied question is, are you okay with that? And she immediately, well, I can't do that because, and stops and goes, wow, because that would tell people I don't have a gun. That means I'm more vulnerable. That means that having a gun is actually a good self-defense tool. Oh my God, I've just walked into a trap and I must turn and run because I will be forced to admit that I was wrong. The Olympics are coming up. Guess what they do at the Olympics? They shoot guns. We'll have an update on that when we come back.